Hi, and welcome back to the Delve podcast. I'm Allie. I'm a staff therapist here at Delve Psychotherapy of Chicago.
And I'm Adam. I'm the executive and clinical director at Delve Psychotherapy of Chicago, also training director and business owner and all that jazz.
We're all pretty much everything.
Yeah.
Here at Delve Psychotherapy of Chicago, we offer individual, couples, group, and family therapy. We do have immediate options available for very low cost therapy. And if you're interested in booking a session with us, you can head on over to delvepsych.com. That's DELVEPSYCH.com. Also, we write some pretty interesting, thoughtful posts about all things therapy on our Substack account at delvepsych, same spelling, .substack.com. Also, we wanted everyone to know that we do have limited pro bono spots available right now. Adam, if you want to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So part of what we do here at Delve is that we train the next generation of therapists. So we always have an intern class. And part of what we need for them is to just get them hours and experience. We spend a lot of time and pour a lot of energy into supervising our interns. As you know, you've been one of our interns.
Yeah.
It's very near and dear to my heart. So part of what we're trying to deliver in terms of trying to ensure that our interns get incredible training, but also that I think the people in the public can get really good access to good therapy when they don't necessarily have the finances to be able to afford it. We do offer some limited pro bono spots. So please reach out to us. Let us know if you're in a situation where therapy is needed, but maybe not affordable. And we'll figure out a way to help if we can.
Yes, please. We're always willing to work with you, and we want to get you the help you need. So yeah.
Hey, Allie.
Yeah.
Would you say that a major milestone in your life has occurred over the last week?
Yeah. 2 days ago, my degree officially got conferred. So I officially have my master's in clinical counseling.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I'm so proud of you, truly.
Thank you so much. I'm very excited. It was one of the hardest things, if not the hardest thing that I've ever accomplished in my life. So I'm very proud of myself. And it's a step along this journey of becoming fully licensed. And I'm just really excited. And thank you so much for your support and guidance along the way and getting me to completing this master's degree. So
yeah, absolutely. I know it's been a long and arduous journey, and it's just so great to see at the other end of it and getting started, and then of course continuing the work here at Delve, where we're just so thrilled to continue working with you.
Yay! I'm so happy too. I really did have a really great training experience here, and I just love Delve's whole approach to therapy. And so I'm excited to continue to grow here with this team. It's a really good group of people.
Yeah, I think so. I'll vouch for them.
Yeah, you put together a really good group of people. So
thank you.
So Adam, what are we talking about today?
Well, something that came up in a session this week that I thought would be interesting to talk about is something in relationships, not necessarily romantic relationships, but all relationships, that I call the go back approach. There's a couple of ways that this can show up. Have you ever talked with somebody and they've had a recurring issue, maybe with a partner, maybe with a friend, and they'll say something like, the next time this happens, I'm going to say fill in the blank thing?
Yes, 100%.
How does that usually go?
Well, I feel like a couple things. In waiting for this thing to happen again, or for this person to say this thing again, there's a lot of built up tension and resentment that isn't being resolved in just this waiting period for this thing to happen again, if it happens again. And then sometimes when it does happen again, maybe the person doesn't even address it then, and they'll say, okay, no, the next time after that, then I'll address it. And then they keep kicking the ball down the line. That's what I feel.
I think that's exactly what I've seen as well. Yeah. And And then I would add to it that if you then bring it up the next time it happens, you're also bringing it up in the heat of the moment. You're surprising the other person. You're maybe emotionally charged yourself. So I think that people are worried about bringing up a topic when things are peaceful because they're afraid of conflict, because they're afraid of being seen as holding a grudge, etc. But I think there's a real value to doing it, and specifically doing it in this way that I'm going to describe.
Okay.
So the go back approach is essentially to say, you know, that thing that happened the other day, I've been thinking about that, and I'm wondering if you'd be open to talking a little bit more about it. So what do you think of taking that kind of approach? How does that land with you? If you were receiving that, if you were witnessing that, what do you think about that that way of engaging somebody on a tense topic?
I think a couple thoughts. I think one, I think it's smart to bring up that conversation when it is in a bit more peaceful place rather than in the heat of the moment. Just for the sake of the conversation being a little bit more I don't know, level-headed. But also I can see why people would be resistant to that, just because like they do want to keep the peace, and when things are peaceful they're like, no, I don't feel like it, I don't want to, like I don't want to, it's fine, I'll just, if he does it again, then I'll talk about it. I just like, things are good right now. I don't want to rock the boat at this moment. And I could also see a client being like, I don't want him to think that I'm like annoying for bringing up this thing that's been bothering me, or like too needy, or I don't know. It could come across like I don't know. I just feel like I could see why people are resistant to having those kinds of conversations, because it's vulnerable.
It's vulnerable, and I think that's a big part of it. Is we're afraid of that vulnerability, and we're as a society inexperienced with it. But in that pursuit of avoiding rocking the boat, we'll just go ahead and sink it in a moment of tension. So
Yeah.
It's interesting that I think obviously people struggle with this, but a thing that I harp on quite a lot in romantic relationships, but really in any dyad, if you will, is if you're going to bring something up, have a plan. Have a plan for how you're going to bring it up. Have a plan for how you're going to manage the other person's emotions. Have a plan for how you're going to manage yours. Have a plan with respect to what it is you're trying to get out of the conversation, and be clear about that. Just reflexively bringing these things up when you're heated, when you're charged, it's probably just going to make both of you less effective.
Okay, so don't wing it, is what you're saying.
Generally not.
Yeah. So when you have suggested this approach to clients, like what's the usual response, or how do they take it in?
I get less resistance on this than on other things. But I think it's hard to do.
Yeah.
Because I think people are often reactive, emotionally reactive. So I feel something, so I do something. I'm scared, so I run. I'm angry, so I fight. There's that sort of immediate kind of this, then that occurs. And to utilize the go back approach, by and large, you need something to go back to. But another way that you can use it is, let's say that we weren't at our best when we ourselves had an initial response. So it's just, you say something like, can you just call your mom? And then maybe a half hour, maybe 3 days later, you could go back and say, do you remember when I said that thing? That's not exactly the tone that I would like to use with you. And I want to check on how you're feeling about that thing that happened 3 days ago. That's another way to utilize the go back approach.
I like that. I hadn't thought about it that way. I feel like a lot of times we're just like, oh man, we just like struggle with that internally, like, oh man, I wish I had said that different. Oh well, the moment has passed, like, can't do anything about it now. It's like, no, you can still like address it and like let your partner or whoever it is know, like, that's not like how I would have liked to responded in that circumstance.
Yeah. Well, and I think there's so much living our relationships in our heads rather than in relationship. And so I'm sitting over here guilty about having sort of bit at you in that way instead of saying something to you and potentially collaborating. Of course, also, taking into account whether the other person likes to be approached on these things or whether they're much more like, can we just move on? Every dyad, if you will, needs to kind of decide what its rules are. But generally speaking, I think we don't want to just let everything roll off the back, not talk about anything. If you're feeling it, we want to figure out a way to say something about it. So we avoid the trap of feeling a lot, saying nothing, and then drifting apart.
Yeah. I think in this way, it helps with like the resentment piece.
Right. Which I think we need to think about the idea of resentment as being a personal responsibility. If you yourself are growing in your resentment toward another person, it can seem like that's their fault. No, it ain't. It's your resentment. What are you doing with your resentment? And how are you addressing your resentment in a healthy way? Are you trying to talk about them? Talk about it with them.
Yeah.
If you are trying to talk about it with them, and let's say you get a not great response from them when you try to talk about it with them. Okay, fine. Now you have choices to make. If you continue to, stay around the person, maybe remain loyal to them, then you've made your choice. So that's not theirs anymore. It's you've decided to accept the circumstances as they are.
Right. Yeah, you've made that choice then.
So let's not put it on them. You've accepted the reality.
Yeah. I've noticed that too in my work with clients, the idea of like taking, like, actually like owning your choice to stay in a certain relationship, versus just passively being like, well, this is what it is. It's like, no, like own your like, you're making that choice, you're owning that choice,
Or I'll hear a lot of, it is their fault that I'm unhappy. Maybe that's masked, but it's their fault that I'm unhappy. Do something. If you're choosing not to, then that is your choice and that's your prerogative. But now that's you agreeing to the terms that the other person has set. I don't think I've talked about this on the 3 previous episodes of the podcast, which that's super cool, by the way, that we're already on episode 4. But regardless, there's a book about workers' rights and the way that a disgruntled workforce can approach its leadership, its bosses, what its stance might be toward that leadership. And that sounds like a non sequitur, but the book is called Exit Voice Loyalty.
Okay.
And essentially they outline, if you are a disgruntled workforce and you're unhappy with your bosses, then you essentially have 3 options. You can leave, you can say something, or you can shut up and stay loyal.
Yeah.
And I think they've accidentally written a psychology book.
100%.
Because I think those are the options. I think that if you're in a situation in which you're unhappy with what's happening around you, especially with another person, those are your choices. Leave, stay and shut up, or say something.
Yeah.
What we often pick is say something and then say something louder and then say something again and then say something differently louder and then say something again. Just notice that we ourselves are making a personal responsibility. We ourselves are making a choice of how to approach this thing.
In this idea of like saying something and then saying something again and then trying to say something again, what are your thoughts on like at what point do you stop saying something and have to be like, okay, this is not changing, and either I just need to like accept it and stay in this relationship where I'm unhappy with this thing, or I leave. Like, at what point do you, like, how many chances do you give to say something, essentially?
At some point, which is the least helpful answer possible. But it's really up to the individual. And there is this concept, I think Amanda Palmer talks about it in her book, but I know that she does. What is her book called? Something about the art of asking. She talks about this concept of it needing to reach a certain threshold of discomfort before you're willing to make a different choice.
Yeah.
If it doesn't hurt enough, you'll just stay put and keep doing what you're doing.
I remember the first time that you said that to me, and I think it was like maybe one of our supervision conversations, but just like, it doesn't hurt enough yet for this client. They're not going to make that change until it hurts enough.
Yeah. Which is so hard when you're sitting with them, because you can see a client in a lot of emotional pain, saying, I can't do this anymore, saying, I'm overwhelmed, I'm stressed, I'm sad, this is tearing me apart. All of that can be true, but they're still not quite ready to make a choice.
Yeah. Even though like we're sitting across from this client and it seems like they're in so much pain, like it's still not enough pain for them to be like, okay, I'm leaving, which is like wild, like how much, and some people have different thresholds than others, but like, for some people, it takes a lot for them to be like, okay, I'm finally done.
Yeah. And this goes, I mean, it can also be employment situations. It can also be friendships. It can also be sports teams. It's not just romantic relationships, but when you've seen clients in a situation like that, where it hurts a lot, but not enough to make a different choice, how have you handled it?
I sit with them, and that hurt. I think it's important for their autonomy that I'm not like pushing them to make a certain choice. But I also think it's at those moments where it really, really hurts, but like they aren't quite there yet to leave or make a big choice. I think in those moments, like you can explore with them the choice of leaving. Just put it on the table and see what comes out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's fair game always to talk about the options. I also agree with you that we're not trying to push toward one. And if we are, it's as an exercise, not as a choice, as a, you need to go do this.
You have to do this thing. I'm telling you as your therapist. No, like,
Yeah.
I really, oh, go ahead.
No, please.
No, I was just going to say, I really love the whole, just to tie it back, I really love the whole concept of this, like, go back approach, and having a plan, and coming into the conversation in a peaceful moment, not in like a really overly heated moment, not waiting for the next time it happens. I think that can be a really practical tool that people listening can employ in their own relationships.
Yeah. Well, and I also want to talk about the go back approach as an option for things like ritual and celebration. So we had set up to go on a picnic on Saturday morning. And when we got out there, one of us got stung by a bee. And then we got in a fight about, like, this is a stupid idea. And then we walked home silently in a bit of a huff. But that picnic was really important. At least somebody in the relationship thought the picnic was really important. Go back on Sunday. Just do it again.
Do it again.
And when you're there, say, this is the picnic I wanted to have with you. I think what's interesting about that is, like, obviously our brains will remember the one that didn't go well, but it'll also remember the one that did go well. And years later, I think a kind of replacement can happen for what that experience was. The Gottmans in the book Fight Right talk about I think it's in that book. Regardless, it's in one of their books. They talk about the idea that if you ask couples about their first date many, many, many years later,
Mhm.
couples that were highly successful remembered the date more positively. They did this incredible longitudinal study. I think it was 25 years or something like that, where
Wow.
as people were getting to know one another, they were like, how'd your recent first date go? Kept tracking them, kept tracking them, kept tracking them. The ones that were married 25 years later had changed the story, a lot of the details, but certainly the degree of fondness for
Mm.
the person related to the first date. It's like you've told yourself a lie. That's not what happened, but it's a lie that brings you closer to the other person.
Yeah.
What truth is more important, the sanctity of our bond or the facts on the ground?
Yeah. Well, I wonder the reason why maybe like this memory of this first date becomes even more special and more becomes even more like flowery and magical and wonderful over time is just because like the appreciation for these couples that did stay together, get married, were together for 25 years, like they appreciate that that was the first moment that started this whole wonderful relationship that they've built together. So it just means more as their relationship means more.
I do think that's the mechanism, but just to reiterate though too, it does then change the facts. They'll
Mm.
say that people did things they didn't do. They'll
Oh.
say that they felt ways that they didn't describe at the time. They will change the facts themselves.
Hmm.
It's crazy.
Hmm. Yeah.
This is partly when humans get really fascinating to me.
Yeah. Oh, interesting. And in changing the facts of it, do you think it has anything more to do with than just like wanting that first date to mean something more special and like do you think there's anything more to like why they changed the facts
Well,
of it?
this might get a little arcane here, but there is really good psychology about why this happens.
Okay.
So it kind of gets into cognitive dissonance. So the big dissonance person was Leon Festinger back in, I think, Festinger 57, one of my favorite articles I've ever read. So when we believe ourselves to be these principled creatures who have certain attitudes and beliefs, and then we go out into the world and we enact them.
Yeah.
But what really happens to us, and this has been demonstrated over and over and over again, if you think about tons of psychological studies you have seen or witnessed, you'll see people who are in a certain context driven toward certain actions as a result of their biases and the circumstances around them. And then we justify. So we are in large part reacting to our external environment as a result of biases and factors unbeknownst to us. And then after that, trying to make sense of why that's happening. And when I say this is well validated, there's some theories in psychology that have no support. There's some theories in psychology that have good support. And there's some theories in psychology that have overwhelming support.
Yeah.
This is one of them that we got this one. This has overwhelming evidence to support it. It's not like we think maybe this is happening. This is how humans work. We are reacting to our biases and a bunch of factors that we cannot interpret really, like we can't see. And
Yeah.
then we just start trying to make sense of it after the fact. So that creates cognitive dissonance. Essentially, in this moment, a person has committed a majority of their life to someone
Yeah.
in a marriage context. Why would you do that if your first date or your first several dates were like, whatever, they're fine. Who gives a damn? So you have to make sense of why you did that. And all this happens on an unconscious level. The human mind needs things to make sense. It does not like dissonance. And if you instill a sense of dissonance in someone, you will see a huge spike in motivation to resolve that dissonance. But what is harder, to change your behavior or to change your beliefs? You'd think it'd be beliefs.
Yeah.
But I can just do that in my head real fast.
Yeah.
I don't have to do anything. So over and over and over again, people will shift their beliefs and then their perspectives and then their memories to fit.
Right. So instead of like the first date, maybe like in truth, the first date, let's say it was a woman and a man, and the woman didn't find the man all that attractive, and maybe she was a little annoyed that he was 15 minutes late, and found the conversation a little like stop-starty. 25 years later, after being married for so many years, instead it's, oh yeah, right when you walked in the door, I thought you were so cute.
You got it. And of course, this goes the other way as well. You ever talk to somebody after a breakup and they're like, I knew they were bad news. I knew it all the way along. I should trust my gut.
No, you did it.
You were there making your choices in the moment based on what you were seeing in real time.
Yeah. Oh, that is fascinating.
We're weird. People are weird.
Okay. For the rest of this podcast, I was wondering, Adam, if you would like to do a little therapist-client role play.
I would love to. I wouldn't love to. I'm nervous as hell about doing this, but I'm going to do it anyway. Because I think it's vulnerable to expose to the public and to my colleagues the exact way that I go about things. So there's, my little imposter syndrome can come up here a little bit, but I think we can work through that, and I think I can. I think I can try to show some of my approach, hoping that if people have alternative views of alternative ways of doing things, that we again kind of go back to that idea that there's a lot of ways to do this. And I hope we're all learning from one another. Take from what you see me do that you like, and steal it. And I would love to watch you out there, dear therapist listener. I'd love to see how you do it, because I could probably learn a lot from you too.
Yeah. All right, let's do it. So I've been tasked with coming up with a client that will be difficult for Adam. So,
yeah, I have a few ground rules for this. Firstly, I think usually when therapist role plays happen, one, I think that the focus tends to be very much on technique. I'm going to focus on relationship primarily, but technique as well. Second, I think they tend to present a client that, for lack of a better phrasing, fixes easy. And that ain't real. That's not reality. So I've tasked you with being intransigent. Make this hard on me. Not so hard that I never land anything, but we want this to be kind of a recurring character that we keep revisiting. So I don't fix much of anything. Firstly, therapists don't fix anything. I'm speaking glibly, or loosely, but nothing here gets better immediately. This is a hard road to hoe. I've also asked you to make sure that this character is entirely fictional, not based on any real relationships. So we're not referencing a client that you know. We're not referencing your own life. This is truly fictional, pulling on your improv skills for sure. And then a couple more things. We won't go full length session because we only have a shortened podcast. So we're going to be showing kind of snippets and shorter bits of therapy. I also have no backstory, no intake paperwork for this client whatsoever, no nothing. So I'm going in totally blind. This is a little different than when I walk into a first session, when I at least have some context for what's going on. And then my last note, I'm going to make mistakes. I'll have missteps, misunderstandings. I might even lose attention or focus, as a therapist does sometimes. I'm not going to edit that stuff out. If I make a mistake, I'm going to try my damnedest to keep it in there and let y'all see it, because therapists make mistakes. And these super polished videos where the therapist is just absolutely pristine, I don't want to see take 21. I want to see take 0. So we're going to try to live up to that and let you see a therapist screw up and have to figure it out and sort it out with the client.
Love it. Okay. So I guess we'll just go ahead and start.
You have a client in mind?
Yeah.
May I just know the client's name and I'll start us off?
Kate.
Okay. Hey, Kate. Oh, sorry. Quick timeout. I'm also going to say I'm not covering things that we would cover in the beginning of a therapy session, which would be limits of confidentiality, risks to confidentiality related to telehealth, any of the kind of standard policy procedure related things. I'm not covering those things. But if you are a therapist listening to this, informed consent is important, and making sure that you talk about limits of confidentiality clearly, making sure that you talk about the risks to doing therapy via telehealth clearly are very important. Please don't skip those steps. Hey, Kate, I'm Adam. It's really good to meet you. Thanks so much for coming in, and I'm curious, why'd you book with me and how can I help?
Yeah. I feel like I am stuck in life and I don't really know where to go from here. And like, I don't want to feel this level of depression every day that I do, but I don't know how else to move forward. I don't know how to like see my circumstances any better, so that I can feel better in the day to day. I just feel like nothing in my life, in any like aspect of my life, is going well. Not in dating, not in career, not just financially. I'm not where I want to be. In my early 30s, I feel really behind a lot of my friends. Basically, I've been trying to pursue a singing career for the past, I graduated, it'll be coming up on almost a decade, from graduating and me trying to pursue being a singer. And basically, I just have had terrible luck and I haven't been able to gain any traction. No one wants to sign me. I know in my heart that I'm a damn good singer and I'm talented and I'm worthy. And like, damn, like I just want people to like hear my art. And it just seems like the powers that be, the record labels, the people, the gatekeepers, like they have my future in their hands. Like I can't meet the goals that I want to meet in my career without their go ahead, without their approval, without them opening the gates for me. And so it's really frustrating because it's like no matter how much good work I do, how much input I put into this career, the output doesn't match the level of input.
Yeah.
I don't know what to do at this point. It's been like 10 years of me really hitting the pavement and trying. I don't see myself doing anything else with my life. If I did do something else, I don't know what even that would be.
Mm-hmm. What are you doing now in addition to hitting the pavement and trying to make this successful?
I work as a waitress. I didn't want to do that for the rest of my life. I feel like a failure if that's like just all I do the rest of my life is to be just be a waitress. Um,
Mm.
and I feel like I focus so much on my career that like I'm single at 31. Um, I live paycheck to paycheck. I just wish some aspect of my life was going right so then I could like hold on to that. But since like nothing is where I want it to be at 31, I just feel like it's really hard for me to stay positive.
Mm. I would assume that, firstly, thank you for sharing so much with such clarity. It truly does give me a ton to work with, just in trying to get to know you a bit. I don't know if you saw me scribbling all my little notes, but there's so many things that you've mentioned here that I would love to follow up on. We may not get to all of it today, but I just want to say that was a lot for me to work with, and I really appreciate that. That helps my job be a little easier.
Mhm.
Um, at some point in your life, at some point in this career, I would imagine that you started with a sense of ambition, with a sense of passion, and with a sense of hope.
Yeah.
So somewhere along the way, we went from hope to stuck.
Yep.
When did that happen?
Ooh, maybe like 5 years ago. Um, yeah, I just feel like my hope at this point, my hope, my ambition, my passion is like at a zero. Like
Mhm.
I don't recognize who I am now versus when I first started pursuing this career. Like I feel like I was so much more vibrant and impassioned, and now I just feel like I have nothing to give.
Right. When you mention dating, career, and financial circumstances, I suspect you're saying that career is the most important of that lot. That's the thing that occupies your mind the most.
Yeah, I don't want to let my younger childhood self down who like dreamed of being this like famous successful singer.
Mm.
I feel like I'm letting her down right now. Um but it's like, okay, well, if I can't have the career that I want, like can I at least have like a loving successful relationship? um
Mm. Yeah.
that's not even there. So
Right. I'm also thinking about, we'll touch more on that, but I'm also thinking about this idea of luck, traction, talent, worth, those four kind of concepts. I'm wondering if you could speak a little bit more to the way that you think about those. Is this a matter of luck? Is it a matter of traction? Is it a matter of just the gatekeeping? Is it a matter of talent? Is it a matter of worth?
mm,
Like, as you think about what makes a singer successful, an artist, um, be spotted, what's it take in your mind?
I think the level of talent, I mean, if the talent's not there, then you're not getting far. But I think, unfortunately, what I struggle with is I do think there is a big element of like luck and circumstances that just happen to go your way. And I think that's what angers me and gets me riled up is like, how come some people have the luck and I haven't?
Mhm.
Um,
Because it's luck.
that's not fair. How come some people like I've wanted this so badly all my life, and it's like, why don't I get the lucky break? That
Mm.
that I see some other people who kind of started pursuing this career around the same time that I did. Like, how come they're getting the breaks and not me? I know I'm just as talented. I know I'm just as worthy as them. It's not fair.
And what do you think about that idea of fairness?
I don't know. People always say like life's not fair, but I feel like it should be.
Me too. It's not complying, but I feel that too.
Yeah.
So in some ways, I see you living in the feeling of unfairness, living in that feeling of, or that experience of bad luck. And then I almost hear a feeling of maybe powerlessness.
Yeah.
I'm just beholden to these powerful others, to these unseen forces.
So much of my life feels not in my control. I do feel very much beholden to the powers that be for whether I have a successful career or not, whether I have a happy life or not, whether I achieve my dreams and meet my goals or not. Is all in these powers that be's hands, all in just this idea of luck's hands. Like, yeah, it does feel powerless. That's kind of how I feel right now, for sure.
I could imagine someone in a circumstance like yours who has been grinding away at this for 10 years, is feeling this sense of powerlessness, is feeling this sense of futility almost, and now having this experience of being stuck. Nothing in my life is going well. Now I'm depressed, and I'm honestly experiencing my drive and possibly mood at a zero. I could imagine a person being in that circumstance saying, okay, I'm going to have to make a change. I didn't want to make a career shift. I don't even know what career shift to make, but here I am at a zero, depressed, stuck. Nothing in my life is going well. The luck isn't breaking my way. I could imagine a person in your state saying, okay, it's time for a change. Whether I want it to be that way or not, it's time for me to move in a different direction. Yet, I don't quite hear you saying that. And instead, I see you've booked a session with me.
Even the suggestion of like doing something else like makes me mad.
Tell me about the anger. Be mad for a second.
Um, like, why do I have to give up something that I've wanted all my life? Um, um, it's again, it's not fair. This idea of unfairness keeps coming up back up. Um, I feel like if I were to give up and pursue a different career, um, it's like the powers that be won. Uh,
Yeah.
and that pisses me off. Um, it's like it would be like they chose for me to do something different.
Mm,
That's how it would feel. Like I would be changing careers, like gritting my teeth.
yeah. Even in a moment that could hypothetically represent grabbing your agency back from the world, wrestling it from its hands, and driving your life in a new direction, even in that moment, it still feels powerless.
Yeah, I wouldn't see it as a positive choice like you're describing it.
Yeah. It's forced.
Yeah, it would that would be like worst case scenario for me. That would be like my world is ending. I don't
Mm,
even recognize myself anymore. Like my whole plans for my life just down the toilet. Like that would be
mm.
the worst day.
Yeah. And I think I hear you saying that's not this day.
No.
I think then you're not quite at a zero. Maybe you're close to it. And maybe you're feeling that sense of futility, powerlessness, defeat,
Mm.
exhaustion. But zero is the day that you move in a new direction, whether you want to or not. You grit your teeth, you stay mad. Day one. But you're telling me very clearly that you still have a sense of purpose and direction and no real intention to give up, right?
Yes, but I don't know how I can go forward with this career where I feel like so miserable all the time and so just angry and depressed about where I'm at, and um, that things aren't working. It's like I'm not. You're right, and that I'm not like at the point of doing something different. I'm not at zero in that sense, but I also don't feel good about continuing to pursue singing at this moment either. Like, it feels really shitty.
Mm-hmm. Why do it?
Because it's what I've always wanted. It's what I'm passionate about. Um, I I love it. And again, like I feel like a lot of me is doing it for like my younger self and like honoring her.
Mm. Tell me about her. What was she like?
She is so cool. She was so free spirited. She was always like singing throughout the house. She would put on like performances in her backyard for the neighbors. Um, she she thought she was a star. No, she knew she was a star. um, yeah, in her mind, in her world, she was already a superstar, and um, yeah.
How did the people around you, excuse me, how did the people around her receive that? How did your parents respond? Your friends?
They're encouraging for sure. They sat through all of my performances. um, they, you know, um, they would be like, our little star. They encouraged me. I don't think without their encouragement that I would have had the gusto to like actually go forward with actually like pursuing it in my adult life.
Mm.
Yeah, they're my biggest supporters, is for sure.
Mm. What do they say now, your parents?
It's interesting. I feel like the tides have kind of shifted as I'm getting older. There's questions about like, okay, now like what are you actually doing now? Like with your life? Like how like okay, that was fun. You tried it. You did your thing. You went for it. That was your 20s. That was cute. Now you're in your 30s and like where's your husband? Where's your money?
Mm.
And what are you doing? Like you know, that was a fun hobby. Now it seems like it hasn't gone anywhere. It's time to throw in the towel. I feel like those are the subliminal messages I'm getting from them, is like, okay,
Mm.
it's time to throw it in the
To call it subliminal, it sounds like you're saying that they're trying to obfuscate this. They're trying to hide it from you a little bit, but you're
towel.
feeling.
Yeah, but I feel it in just like the tone and the way that they say things, and they're not as encouraging as they used to be, and they'll just like make little comments here and there.
Yeah. What about the bank?
Exactly. Or, oh, my friend's daughter said there's an opening at blah, blah, blah.
which seems nice on the surface, but is a subtle invalidation of your entire path.
Exactly. It's a dig for sure.
And a minute ago, you used the word cute. I lost the phrasing of it, but you said, "Oh, that was cute in your 20s. That was cute." Oh, God, I felt that.
Yeah.
So small. It's so
Belittling.
belittling for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So I feel like I've lost their support too. So I feel like I just don't have like the strength that I used to in pursuing this. Like it's hard for me to muster up the motivation to continue. Yeah, I just feel like I'm in this like in between. Like I'm kind of described earlier where it's like I'm not, it pisses me off and I don't want to even think about doing something different, but I also feel like I don't have the passion and the motivation and the support to continue with it. So I don't know.
And I think about that lost support as well. I mean, the younger Kate, everyone around her celebrated her, loved her, and championed this side of her. And now this current version of Kate, you're the only one that's holding on to any of the belief, it sounds like. And
Right.
even then,
And it's just like a little bit left now.
yeah, yeah.
um
Well, one thing that I want to reflect to you is we need to start wrapping up. But one thing that I want to reflect to you is that while it is a little, I think the story that you were telling me is that it's enough. It's enough to keep you going. Because when I posit to you this idea of choosing a different path, you were quite clear with me. Nope,
yeah.
not yet. If at some point that changes, I'm open to exploring that conversation with you, of course. Right now, I understand why that would piss you off, and I'm cool with that. This is the path. You're telling me quite clearly it is still the path.
Yeah.
That said, part of what I've already tried to convince you of here a little bit is I don't think you're at zero, and I don't think you're stuck. I think it just feels bad.
Yeah. Feels bad. Yeah.
But let's not confuse those two. You aren't stuck, and you're not at a zero. You're hurting, and I see and I hear the hurt. But you're not stuck, and you're not at a zero. And to continue down this path is going to be tough in exactly the ways that you described. You know what you're doing. You know what this world is. There's nothing unclear here, except that there's this element of how do I live my life in the meantime. As
Right.
I continue to struggle, as I continue to toil away at a job that I don't like in a field that seems to reject me. How do I continue that toil? That I think I can be helpful with. But it's still going to be toil.
Yeah. I'm not looking to forward to more days of feeling like this.
Even that phrasing's a little interesting. If I can kind of tease part of my idea here, you don't need to look forward. You need to live in the present moment. This is, you know that this is going to be a difficult experience. It's just a difficult experience that you've chosen. And so in any given present moment, we can talk more about the kind of mentality here as we have time to work together. But in any given present moment, you're making a choice. And it's sort of this idea of continuing to commit yourself to this pursuit on any given day. You know, why go to auditions? Why put together tapes? Why continue to work with a coach or produce your own work? Why do any of that?
Right.
Every single day you set out to do something of that nature is a recommitment to the path that you put yourself on. And there are some days when you won't make that choice. But we as humans love to tell stories about what we're doing. And so if you string together 3 days in which you haven't, done much work on your singing career, it's easy to start spinning a tale of, see, now I'm letting it go. I have no motivation. It's easy to kind of tell that story. Alternatively, day 4 comes around. We're now in the present moment of day 4, and you have another opportunity to decide that day whether you mean to commit yourself to it or not.
Yeah. I'm taking it day by day.
And I
Essentially.
hope that what you hear me saying in all of this is this idea of powerlessness. In some ways you are, in terms of the ultimate, acceptance into the gates opening, if you will. There's some degree of that is luck, and to call it luck is to kind of seed that ground and say it happens or it doesn't, but there's not anything that I can do about luck. That's what makes it luck. You still retain power over your actions. You still retain power over exactly how you spend your days and exactly how you work on this particular craft, as well as the other aspects of your life that you brought up. So there is no they won. There is just you choose.
Hmm.
When we have an opportunity to talk more about this, we can continue to kind of explore what thoughts or maybe even disagreements come up with you there, because I know it feels like they've won. But I'm hoping in future sessions we can touch on some of this, trying to get our mind back into the present moment as much as possible, and trying to think about how we approach each of these moments in a way that can feel like we're living our life now, and we're remembering the ways that we are not stuck now.
Yeah. I think that'd be helpful.
Good to meet you today, Kate. We'll talk soon.
Talk soon.
So what do you think?
Yeah, I feel like as Kate, I felt like she felt very validated and heard and understood, and you really took your time getting to understand her story, her narrative, her perspective. Yeah, what did you think?
Well, I'm curious what, sorry, I'm going to do the therapist-y thing where I answer your question with a question.
Yeah.
But I'm curious what felt validating for Kate. What were the things that were said that landed or that gave a sense of this person understands her story?
I think just validating that there is like a sense of, there is like a big aspect of luck in the business that she is in. Um like getting to understand like her support system, and how like now like how her lack of support now is affecting how that's affecting her now. Recognizing that she's not there yet to throw in the towel and switch in and switch to a different career, and like um respecting that and not like pushing for that, like being like, no, I see that option makes you angry right now, you're not there yet. Okay, you're not. And
Mhm. Well, I'm also trying to challenge myself as a therapist to, because of course a bias will come in to play. Man, it actually feels like a betrayal of the client because I'm still talking to you. But like, of course, a thought comes into play like, "Ooh, this is a tough path to pick,"
right,
and I think your chances here are low.
right.
Um, so of course, me as the therapist does have some of those same biases that maybe parents and friends have. That's thinking, how do we convince this person that they need to try to do other things, um, and get a different job? Like, how do we convince them? Of course, those biases come up, but I'm trying to challenge myself to, a minute ago, you said the word, they're not there yet. I'm trying to challenge myself on yet. Maybe they never are, and maybe they're 75 still trying to be a singer. If I'm truly going to align myself with the client's goals, needs, and values, I'm not allowed that word yet. I I don't get to have that in my brain.
And I will say, like, as Kate, I didn't feel that bias in you at all of like you being like, oh man, that's a hard career, maybe she should do something different. I didn't feel that at all, at all.
Yeah.
0. So, and I think Kate gets that enough from other people in her life.
Exactly.
So
There may be a point at which we have to talk a little bit about the finances and like how she's living her life and whether she wants to, like, one thought I have here is there a way to, because Kate's thinking in a little bit of a black and white manner. I am either singing and waitressing or I'm doing a muggle job. And I do think there's a room here to explore a parallel path approach at some point, like starting to explore, okay, so if you were to look for a muggle job, I know you said you have no idea, but what do you think? Like, what ideas do come to mind? What would you consider and how would you go about it? And then starting to explore, are there steps that you could take in that direction that are not a betrayal of this deeper path that you're on? Can we, instead of living in the black or the white, can we live in the gray?
Yeah, and what would the gray be? Yeah, I definitely think that in Kate's brain it is either like I am a successful, famous singer, or I'm nothing and no one and depressed and doing a job that I hate. So yeah, like what's the in between there? And I think honestly this kind of ties back to our conversation earlier about like, damn, like Kate's hurting so hard, but it doesn't hurt enough for her.
Right. Not
Right
enough
now.
to make a choice.
Nope.
A different choice. Yeah, absolutely. You know what else I think about that I didn't decide to go for today? She brought up dating 2 or 3 times. The listener may notice that I did not touch that. I'm thinking about it.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about parents' adoration, friends' adoration, are huge drives in this person's life. So one of the big questions that I wrote down, a conceptual question I wouldn't ask the client directly, but is how do you receive love? And what does it feel like to go on a first date, share with somebody what you do? I'm imagining lines like, "Oh, I'm just a waitress, but I'm trying to pursue a singing career." Is that how it's said? Or, "I'm a singer. No, I do have to wait tables." Like, is there an element of kind of shame that starts?
Yeah.
How is
Like
that presented?
yeah. Uh-huh.
And in that way, whoever Kate is dating is suddenly taking a test I don't know that they know they're taking. How do you respond to that moment? Does the other person sort of say like, so do you think about selling insurance or something? Like, all right, that date's done. This person's out.
I'm over.
Too much of a mortal wound
Yeah.
to that relationship already. So I'm imagining that some dynamics of the way that she's thinking about things, the way that she's received love, the way that she attaches to people is likely already at play. And I'm just trying to gather some data so that Kate and I can explore that in the future.
That's a really interesting thing that you picked up on, like based on like how when she was younger, how her, her parents, adored her and praised her and everything, and how that how that shapes like how she receives love now and interacts with it in her adult life. And yeah.
Because whoever's going to successfully love Kate needs to adore and needs to support. But there may be some strategic ways in which we can teach them to do that.
Yeah. Oh, so good. So interesting. Hopefully we'll return to Kate in later podcast episodes and explore more with what's going on with her and get into more of these deeper questions.
Yeah. May I also say, as a amateur actor myself, Allie, excellent acting. That was very good.
Oh, thank you.
Great to see you stretch that professional muscle as well.
Listen, improv, of all the things, of all the, like, improv was like my scariest thing as an actor when I was an actor. And so as you being an improviser, that means a lot, hearing that from you. So thank you. As we always end our episodes, I want to inquire about the quote behind you, the new one. It says, big feelings signify the need to make a big choice.
Yeah, I would say this is pretty core to the way that I think about the relationship between the self and emotions, or really the self in pursuit of goals, needs, and values as emotions are coming along. And I'm actually trying to work my way through Les Greenberg's book on emotions-focused therapy. And I noticed that I think I accidentally stole this idea from things that Les Greenberg has written about. I love emotions-focused therapy, but essentially the idea is that we often have this relationship with emotions in which the emotions almost make a choice for us. They start driving the bus for us. So earlier we said, I'm mad, so I fight. I'm scared, so I run. If that's happening, then the feelings are making the choice rather than us making the choice in any given moment. And there's this concept of reacting versus responding to emotion. To react to emotion is to try to rid yourself of an unpleasant one or cling to a pleasant one. But in both of those cases, the emotion's driving the bus. It's in control. And our goals, our needs, our values are gone in that moment. So to respond to emotion is to hang on to the emotion and then make a choice that may be inconsistent with that automatic drive, to make a choice that pulls us in the direction of goals, needs, and values. It's very, very, very hard to do. But Greenberg talks about emotions as a signifier, and that's this concept. It's essentially like when you feel a big thing, rather than reactively just driving toward whatever the emotions tell you to do, you do have the option to stop, feel, experience, process, and then choose. And so emotions as signifier, especially big emotions as big signifier, can be an extremely useful approach in your life. It's an opportunity, rather than I feel a big thing, so I must go do a big thing. I feel a big thing, so I should probably sit down and notice that and sit with it and feel it and think and plan and choose.
Yeah. I think that was a big aha moment for me in my training, this idea of like reacting versus responding. Because how much different we would move forward in the next choice that we make if we were to like sit and contemplate and process and respond versus just like react. And I think a lot of us are just going about life just reacting.
Yeah. Unfortunately.
Yeah.
But hey, that'll keep us employed. So.
All right. On that note, Adam, we have reached the end of this episode. Again, at Delve Psychotherapy of Chicago, we're offering individual, couples, group, family therapy. We do have immediate options for very low cost therapy, as well as pro bono options that we mentioned. Please visit our website at delvepsych.com, DELVEPSYCH.com, and check out our Substack at delvepsych.substack.com.
Nicely done. Thanks so much.
Yeah, we'll see you next time.